to be successful, you know, that's the only way for us to be the best that we can be, is we have to all the time, both ends of the floor, the entire possession for 40 minutes, have a competitive fight. It just is what it is. That's what allows us to be successful. And so when that wavers, or if there's inconsistencies in that area, that affects all parts of our game. So it's not anything specific for our game tomorrow versus Duke. That's been the message for our team the entire season.
Sir, what's the advantage to having players who played there in that environment multiple times, Leaky, Armando, Caleb, and RJ, versus the Duke team that is very freshman laden?
Yeah, you know, that's you know, as a player, you're so into the game, the environment, you don't pay attention to it. It's not a factor. As a coach, it's the same way. And so our focus is on the game, where we play, when we play. If the environment plays a factor in how you play, wherever you play, when you play, I just don't think you're focusing on the right things. I don't, you know, whether you're a freshman or a fifth-year senior, it's just a basketball game, and it's an opportunity to compete against an unbelievable opponent, and we're just excited for the challenge.
Some of the guys said that one of your messages since the other night was having to be consistent with toughness, and you addressed that the other night with us, that they had it at times, but they have to sustain it. How much has that been your message the last couple of days? And how tough is it to coach a group to be consistently at that level of toughness that you want?
Well, again, that's the message that has been consistently sent the entire season. It's not anything specific, you know, in our preparation for Pitt, and not anything specific in our preparation for Duke on Saturday. That's been the message for our team the entire season, that at the end of the day, that's what we have to bring in order for us to have a chance to be the best that we can be. And so it'd be nice to not have to preach that every day, but that's okay, because it's important to us and it's important to our team to be the best that we can be.
Hubert, are you still, it seemed like this time last year, maybe later in February, you got to a point where you really just seemed to push the right buttons with that team. Like, are you still, in some ways, as a coach, trying to find the...
I think you always are.
Okay.
I do, you know, I think you always are trying to, I guess, push the right buttons or make changes and tweak and alter things to make things go better or smoother. I think you're always doing that. I think, you know, one of the things that has been inconsistent for us has been the injuries. And so every week, in terms of, you know, rotations, it's been, you know, it's been musical chairs in terms of who's in, who's out every week. And so thankful that Puff is at a point right now in terms of his health, that, you know, he practiced yesterday and he'll be ready to go today and for the game against Duke, but he has missed, you know, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He was a guy that was, you know, one of the first guys coming off the bench and playing a lot of minutes off the bench.
John said yesterday that you guys ran into each other. He thought it was a recruiting event or a tournament in Orlando this summer, John Shire.
Yes.
And he said,
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
I was like, I know a lot of Johns.
Yeah.
Which John is he talking about?
He mentioned you.
Coach Shire.
Yeah,
okay?
sorry.
I know you're talking about.
Coach
that.
Shire.
Okay.
He mentioned that you two ran into each other. He thought it was in Orlando, but it's some sort of event over the
It was
summer.
in Kansas City.
Okay, Kansas
But
City.
I mean, we're running into each other all the time. We're
I
at
was-
the same events.
I was going to ask you, what is sort of your relationship? He said in that conversation it was mostly focused on family. Like, what have you guys spoken more this summer? What is like that interpersonal?
No, it was great. You know, it's nice to be able to have a conversation outside of basketball, and so I knew that him him and his wife were expecting their third child, and I asked him about it, and he asked me, because I have 3 children, you know, how do you juggle all that? And I said, it's a juggle, and, but it's a fun juggle. And so it was great to just briefly have that type of real conversation with him. And he's done a terrific job this year, and you know, he's a great person and an outstanding coach.
Hubert, you played at a time when both of these programs were really at a high. What was that like? And is there any particular
We're
memories?
still pretty high.
Well, but I mean, national championship. I mean, I understand that, but I mean, for an extended period. I mean, look, that was one of their best teams ever. Leitner and Hurley and those guys. You had Montross and yourself, and I mean, but what was that like? What was, as a player, what was that like? And are there any particular experiences that stand out for you?
No, I just that's why my response was it's always been high. So it was high when my uncle was here in the mid '70s. It was high when I was here, mostly in the '90s. Okay, they got me on in the decades outside, and they got me in the '80s. Now that I'm head coach, I'm gonna see if I can move me to the '90s.
You go by your first year.
Well, I'm gonna change that rule.
I think you can do that. Yeah, we're sure you can get away with
That's the
that.
beauty of being a head coach.
Yeah.
Move me to the '90s.
But still, you blame Kirsch though.
Yes.
It's his fault.
But was there any one particular thing or any kind of things that stood out about you playing in this rivalry game that you remember?
I remember everything. I remember every detail, everything that went into each one of those games, and played them 11 times. I remember everything.
Did you enjoy playing in the environment in Cameron, especially your last year? I know you guys lost, but that was one of the best Duke teams ever. You had a huge game, and there's the chaos going around. I know you said you worry
We
about.
lost.
Yeah.
Leitner had 0 in the first half, and 20 in the second half.
Was there anything you liked about playing in the environment at Cameron with the intensity, the noise, anything about that you enjoyed?
No, I just, again, this isn't, as a player, you're so focused on the competition in the game. The environment is great over there. I'm just saying that as a player, you're so concentrated on what is real, and that's you playing and me now coaching, that you don't recognize, you don't hear, you don't pay attention to the environment. It's just a non-factor. Nothing against the environment, but just your focus is so intense that it's just, you're not looking at anything else. You're just so focused on what you're doing on the court as a player and now as a coach.
Hubert was joking earlier that he thought the Duke fans at Cameron hated Caleb more than him. He said he wished he got booed more. I mean, how cognizant do you think your team is of their perceptions of others?
I hope they're not. I hope they're not paying attention to that at all. I hope they're not.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, paying attention to that at all. That is of no value to us out there on the court to pay attention to. If I'm getting booed as much as the other player, I don't know. I just wish we could switch roles and you guys could see and that wherever you play, it's a great environment. But you just, like our game on Wednesday against Pitt, it was a great environment. But I don't remember anything about the environment. I know that we played Pitt and we lost, and so that's the same thing with our players. My hope is tomorrow.
Hubert, when Caleb was going through his shooting slump, you said you sort of gave him a checklist and you gave him some pointers about things. Did you give some of those same teachings to RJ after the Pitt game when he was struggling with the shot, or was it simple as the wrap on his finger was bothering him again?
I didn't say anything to him. I filter a lot of things through my own experience, and the often times where I didn't shoot the ball well, I didn't want anybody talking to me. Just leave me alone. I know how to fix this. And so that was just me. And I did go through a checklist, when I didn't shoot the ball the way that I wanted to. I Wanted to check and see if there was anything wrong with my form. Number two is, and I can always check this box, is was I putting in the work in terms of, preparing and practicing on my shot. And then the last thing that I would check is my shot selection. And so, as a player, the only stat that I ever looked at was how many threes that I took in a game. Unless I was like really hot, I didn't want to take more than 50% of my shots from three. I just wanted to mix things up. And so that was my checklist, and that's something very similar that I talked to Caleb, but I did not have that same conversation with RJ.
Hubert, when you guys won over there last year at Duke, and you're in the locker room afterward, just after the game, and players are coming in, and Armando comes in very emotional, and
Yeah.
you all had that moment.
Yeah.
What did you think brought him to that level of getting all that out? Like, what did you think when you guys were?
A number of things. I think that game,
Yeah.
one, winning that game versus an unbelievable opponent. Armando, and I think for Armando, individually, he'd been through a lot. His freshman year was when COVID broke out, and we weren't going to the NCAA tournament anyway. And then the second year, we got beat in the first round by Wisconsin. And I think there was a number of things that came out, and so that moment was great because Armando's very emotional, but he doesn't show it a lot. And to see that type of emotion come from him after that game was great.
Hubert, 5 more minutes. Hubert, you've been on Pete in terms of him being more aggressive offensively and everything, and he seems like he's starting to put that together now, but I feel like we saw that earlier in the season too, and then he kind of took a step back again and wasn't consistent with it. Do you feel like now, have you seen maybe that light switch turn on for him?
My hope is, because we need that. We need him being more assertive and being aggressive on both ends of the floor. We need him getting to the offensive glass. We need him to be great defensively and blocking alternate shots. We need him running the floor. We need him to be aggressive on the offensive end in many different ways in terms of finishing around the basket and getting to the free throw line and making open threes and facilitating. We need all of that. And so I agree with you, the last couple games, I feel like he has been more aggressive, and we've been encouraging him to continue to do that.
Hubert, I believe this is the first time since the 60-61 season that none of Coach Smith or Coach Williams or Coach K is going to be on the sidelines for this game. Might be too much of a 30,000-foot thing. Do you feel any stewardship of the rivalry and making sure that it continues to maintain the prominence it has?
I don't think about that stuff. I don't. There's a lot of stuff in my mind. I just don't. I don't think about that. But you just bringing up Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge. That's just I don't know. Just puts a smile on my face.
Coach, you talked a lot about cutting the cord from the big wins last year, moving on. Some of the content from the game at Cameron last year was taken out of the hype video. Is that something that you're aware of or had asked about? The pregame, yeah.
Okay, I have no idea. I don't know. Before the game, I'm thinking about the game. I don't know what's going on the video. I don't know who's in the stands. I know my wife and my kids are there, but I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't know. And I don't know.
Coach, did you happen to get a chance to talk to Coach Capel or Jason Capel after the last game with kind of the disrespect that Jason Capel felt or anything? Did you see that or talk to them after?
There's a couple things. Well, one, Jeff called me and I missed his call, and he left me a voice message, and I sent him a text back and I said everything's good, and congratulations on the win, good luck for the rest of the season. Other than that, I think it would be negligent on my part to comment any further because I wasn't involved, and the information that I got was other people's opinions and their take on it. And so I try to stay away from commenting on stuff that I'm not involved with and commenting on other people's opinions. And again, you guys know, I'm not on social, not only do I not know what's on a video board, I'm not on social media, so I'm not on Twitter or anything, so I don't know what's going on. So all I know is, Pittsburgh came in here and beat us on Wednesday night, and that was the only thing that I took from that.
Time for one more.
As far as the actual matchup and the players,
What, 19 minutes?
We going back to
Just when you-
61,
Yeah. Just when
before
you-
I was born.
just when you look at their roster,
Yeah.
what sort of immediately stands out to you in terms of areas of concern or areas that you're most focused on?
Well, I mean, they're a great rebounding team, especially on the offensive glass. And so, look at something's got to give. We're the best, percentage-wise defensive rebounding team in the ACC, and they're the best percentage-wise, best offensive rebounding team. So, rebounding will be very important tomorrow at 6:30 or 6 for you. Okay.
Tomorrow night.
Okay. Tomorrow night. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and every Duke team, they play with a sense of toughness and physicality from a defensive standpoint, and so we know what to expect there. And then on the offensive end, Filipowski's special. He's a guy that he can create a shot for himself and for anybody else anytime that he wants to. He's a fantastic young player, but it's not just him. They've got a really good basketball team, and it'll be a competitive test for us, but that's something that we always like and always enjoy, and we're really looking forward to it tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Hubert.